Hello everyone, good evening. This is Ashfaq here. I've been in the recruiting industry for close to 10 years. And for last 7-8 years, I've been training recruiters, to be very specific, technology recruiters. I have trained more than 10,000 odd recruiters. And I love technology. I build a lot of HR tech solutions to help recruiters. TA Buddy is one such tool. If you have not used it, probably you can go try it, tabuddy.co. In today's discussion, what is that we are going to focus is we are going to focus on understanding how can we leverage any generative AI sourcing chatbots, any chatbot in context to sourcing. There's a lot of content out there which talks about leveraging these chatbots for anything which relates to content generation, right? Whether it is mailing or creating any new content, doing any kind of research. There's a lot of content out there. There are a lot of influencers were talking about it. So we are not going to touch base on those lines. So this entire next 40-50 minutes, we're going to focus primarily on how we can leverage chatbots, generative AIs in context to sourcing. So when we talk about sourcing, this is the general outline, right? It is about keyword extraction from JD's job descriptions. That's what we do. We create a Boolean, then we go review resumes, and good recruiters actually weed out more keywords from resumes. Right? Good recruiters, what they do is they try to weed out more keywords from a resume. That's what good recruiters generally do. And then tweaking Boolean based on resume review. This is how our flow goes, right? As recruiters, when we try doing sourcing. And then next is understanding search bias. When you write any search, that search has some sort of bias to it. For example, you are trying to hire software engineers. So we have the tendency of giving designations, software engineer, software developer, a bunch of other designations. Now, what is a search bias? When you're giving any keyword, you're expecting the candidate to write that keyword. And if the candidate does not write it, then the candidate is outside your search and your search has bias. Every search which is written, every good search also has a bias. A good recruiter is someone who tries to look outside the bias and tries to write more searches which are fairly inclusive, which ends up including all the candidates, right? So this is how we go about writing search. And then finally, then market research, wherein in terms of sourcing, market research is very crucial. Understanding your competitors, understanding your companies, right? And then last but not the least, search engine understanding. Now, sourcing is all about Boolean, right? That's what it is. But the most crucial piece about sourcing is understanding search engine. Each of the search engine is slightly different from other. Even though the lingo which a search engine understands is Boolean, but the way the algorithm of each search engine works to weed out information is very different. The way your LinkedIn works versus the way your Google search works versus the way any of your job boards, the way they search is actually different. There are a lot of nitty-gritties around. So these 7 points are the crucial pieces around sourcing. And when we put all this together, that's what becomes sourcing, right? Now let's understand what can be automated right now. If at all we can do some automation, what can be automated, right? The obvious can be automated. What is the obvious? Meaning any data which can be described as obvious. Like, for example, anyone who has a designation, which is an obvious designation, let's say, for example, marketing analyst. So this is a very obvious designation, marketing analyst, right? So that's very obvious. Sales analyst, sales consultant, very obvious. So anything which is very obvious that can be fairly automated, that can be easily automated. What will take time or what is slightly difficult to automate is the ambiguous. What is the ambiguous? Any data which is not obvious, right? That is ambiguous and that is difficult to weed out any such data. Like, for example, there are a lot of software developers who have a designation called as analyst. There are a lot of software engineers who have a designation called as consultant, which is what? This is a very ambiguous designation because when you read this designation, you do not know who is this person. Is this person an analyst, like a financial analyst, or some other analyst? You do not know. So this is ambiguous. So it is kind of difficult to automate the ambiguous, and it's fairly easy to automate the obvious, right? So now let's try to understand, starting with Boolean. How does Boolean work? If we give some keywords, how do these chatbots go about? How do they go about generating Boolean searches for us? Let's try to understand that piece. I'm going to create a totally new search. Okay, so let's give some keywords and see how does, to start with, ChatGPT go about performing a search, right? So this is a simple query which I'm going to give it to ChatGPT and see how it reacts. Okay, so now what ChatGPT did here, it gave a prompt saying Java or HTML, SQL, Spring, and then software engineer, software development. Now this string, for anyone who is a very junior recruiter, this might excite someone because it's giving kind of a Boolean. But this is, as a string, is not really good. Why? Because the clustering is wrong. It's comparing all the given skills in OR logic. The clustering is wrong. And then it gives two designations, right? And again, this has some challenges in terms of the way it is written. So now let's look at how does the other chatbot does it. More or less similar, right? More or less the same search, just that ChatGPT gave us software engineer or software developer, but Bard didn't give us. So yeah, maybe I can try changing this prompt a bit to see if it gives us slightly better results. Help me create a Boolean search to find software engineer with below skills, with below mandatory skills, right? Let's see if this works. Okay, so now what we understand from this is we have to give more context to these tools, wherein you need to have that intelligence in terms of your recruiting roles. You should be already aware, okay, what kind of keywords should be, or how it needs to be categorized. When you're aware of it, then you can say, okay, put these skills are mandatory. Then use a either or. So you can dictate it to the chatbot specifically. Now let's talk about TA Buddy, which is very specific. The context is already set, and we have already defined most of the keywords. Let's say, for example, when we come to Boolean, we have given only 7 roles. Why? Because we have given that intelligence for these 7 roles. That's the reason it is very specific to 7. And we'll try to add more roles to this. Maybe we'll try to make it like 40, 50 roles in a very short span, because we need to feed the intelligence which is contextualized. And now you see, it says, okay, just give me the skills. Now we give the skills Java, comma, Spring, comma, SQL. And then I give, let's say, React, right? So it gives me the OR operators as well for that particular skill. And then it says, we believe React is not mandatory. Why? Because what we have chosen here is Java developer, which is not a full stack, right? Java developer is a backend developer. So in a backend developer context, React doesn't really come into the picture. So that's why it says, hey, we believe React is not mandatory. So now you can see the difference from ChatGPT and Bard, because it's a very, they are very high level tools, and they are very natural language driven. Okay. Now, TA Buddy in that context is very specific. because we have trained the intelligence very specific to the recruiting context, wherein what is mandatory, what may not be mandatory for a role is all predefined. For because of which you would see the difference that this is doing slightly better, and which is in reference to recruitment. Now I give yes to this. You would see React being added to that, right? So this is what happens in terms of Boolean. So I'm just going step by step in terms of what is the possibilities. So we spoke about Boolean, right? So you see the differences, ChatGPT and stuff, you need to define what is mandatory. And also you need to define the synonyms. Like for Spring or for SQL, you need to define the synonyms. Then what happens, it will go about weeding out those informations. Okay. Now, there's other bunch of things where we could really leverage these tools, ChatGPT and stuff. And we need to also be careful. Like, for example, generating synonyms or keywords. Now you have to generate some synonyms and keywords. How does ChatGPT or Bard, for that example, performs? Now you tell ChatGPT saying, ki, okay, can you tell me alternative databases to SQL? I think it will do a good job here. Okay, I didn't give a right input. Probably it's giving me all the NoSQL and stuff, right? So I should be saying, can you tell me alternative databases to MySQL? Again, it depends on the prompt, right? So the prompt was slightly wrong because I wanted the synonyms of SQL database. Can you tell me alternative databases to MySQL from the SQL family? Right now, you see. So you have to be very specific with your prompts. It's giving you the right output right now. Right? It's giving you the right output. So again, it depends on your prompts how you're giving it. Now, if you were a junior recruiter, assuming if you were a junior recruiter, or even a recruiter who's working on a new role for that matter, new technology, right? Even I get to bounce on technical words which I'm not aware of, which I've never worked on. So I always try to do a double check uh, to understand whether my query is right or not. Like, for example, if I gave this as a query, for example, can you tell me alternative database of SQL, and it gave me NoSQL, which is totally opposite. And if I was not aware, right, about these differences, then I would have actually taken this output as the right information and gone with this. So you need to always cross verify your information. Since I already knew that this output is not what I really intended, now I go about changing the prompt, right? So that's where having a context is very important. That's when you would know, okay, this prompt is wrong, then probably I need to change my prompt. Or else you would not know, okay, the output what you've got it is right or not, right? So you could always do some basic homeworks on Google. I still trust Google, plain Google. I still trust it. What I would do with keywords on plain Google is this, right? I still trust plain Google. I'll just go put SQL was. Now you see I get a lot of differences. I just put SQL was. Any technology, I pick it up, I just put was. Then I get to know what is the most searched keywords for that. Because generally developers try to do a comparison of different technologies. So I do this first if I don't know a technology, right? And then I figure out, and then I read a bit, okay, what is SQL, what is NoSQL? Then I understand, okay, these two are different families. Then I can use that context to probably go to ChatGPT further, right? So yep. So yeah, ChatGPT sometimes can give you the right results. Sometimes the keywords may not be great. Like for example, I was trying the other day. Can you tell me? Can you list out different ORMs like Hibernate? Right. Yeah. So now I asked different ORMs like Hibernate. Now again, it's giving me a lot of ORMs. Again, what it has done is it has given me a lot of general ORMs. This is not specific to Java. Entity framework is .NET. Django is ORM. right? Again, SQL Alchemy is widely used in Python, right? So this is not specific to Java. So again, if I give this, let's say, for example, from the Java family. Okay. Now you get all of this as a recruiter. Now the challenge is knowing what to use, what not to use. I would not be using Eclipse link. Not many people use it and they don't really write it on the profile, right? So going with these keywords can help you to get the first layer of information, but to use it or not to use it, you need to decide by adding them in your searches and see how many people write it. It's 9 o'clock. Just because ChatGPT or Bard gives you some keyword, it doesn't mean you need to use all of them. You need to first validate it. How do you validate it? You go to LinkedIn or any job board, put Java, and then add these keywords and see how many people are even writing these. Then you can figure it out. Should I even include this in my search or I shouldn't be including it? Okay. So that's something which you need to figure it out. Right. Okay. Now coming to this. Okay. This is a complex piece for any bot to do it. We'll come here later. Before that, I'll show you some magic, which is possible, which is very much possible with ChatGPT. Okay. There's one tool which I'll introduce you to now. Okay. So number one, first thing is he's using GPT-4, right? So we are using GPT-4, and then there's a plugin called as Web Pilot. Can you show that plugin? Yeah, Web Pilot. So you need to activate this plugin called as Web Pilot on top of ChatGPT. Once you have done that, right, you go here. This is available only for premium users. Okay. Web Pilot, you activated it. Now I'm going to give a prompt. Okay, the magic is starting. And I'll tell you, this is something which is mind-blowing. You're going to get data just like that. You're starting to get data of software engineers from Microsoft. That is their LinkedIn links. That's their name. What does Web Pilot do? Web Pilot actually goes and searches on your behalf. Sounds cool and scary too. Can you open any of the profiles? Let's see if it's matching any of the profiles. Just click. Oh, it's going to the second page because I asked it to navigate it to 3 pages. Yep, software engineer, Microsoft. There you go. Bang on data. So it's going to the second page, indexing the data for you. Software engineer, Microsoft. Guys, what's your first reaction after seeing this? Can you put it on the chat? What is your first reaction after seeing this? Can you put it on the chat? Or maybe you can even unmute if you want to. Really scary.
I just hope I have a job some years down the line.
Cool. So now you saw how many minutes it took, probably a couple of minutes, and then boom, you had 30 profiles right on your screen. 30 profiles right on your screen. Right. So here, the point is, what exactly happens here is it takes an input and there's a simple, more of a PSE, programmable search engine. If you have played around with programmable search engine as a recruiter, you would know it. So I'm telling you the technicality behind how does this tool go about doing it? There's no rocket science behind this tool. It just leverages the power of ChatGPT. And what it does in the background is it goes to the PSC, inserts that input, and then they do a page navigation on PSC. All that is possible on top of PSC, which is programmable search engine on Google, and it fetches out the data. It's simple as that. Uh, there's not much rocket science behind it, but again, it is as good as how you can use it. It is as good as how you can really use it. I will give you a few more prompts. Let me give some more prompts, and you can validate how this works. What I'm asking ChatGPT to do. I'm telling ChatGPT visit rapido.com. It can be any website, any company's website. Understand their business. List out similar competitors in India. For the first competitor, go to Google, right, and then do the below. So it can find competitors on your behalf. It can search candidates on your behalf. All of that is possible. What is it doing? Yeah, it came up with a list of competitors. You see that Ola Bikes, Uber Moto, right? And then these are the right competitor names, and then it goes on to fetch you the data, right, from Ola. Okay, now you see some of the data is wrong there. Can you tell me why? Can you open the results, Rafi? Open, let's say, Meta. Someone from Meta, Airbnb or Meta. Open Airbnb or Meta. Scroll down. Do you see Rapido here? Just do a control F Rapido. Sorry, Ola, right? Rapido, Ola, what was it? It picked up Ola, right, as a company. Okay, yeah, that is also possible. Yeah. Okay, now I'll tell you what went wrong here. Why is this data is not targeted to Ola? The reason is you see the search here, what we have given, software engineer, in title software engineer, and then first competitor. That's what we have given. Can you highlight that first competitor? Yeah, so we should have given in title colon first competitor. That way, what would have happened? We would have got people who are currently working in Ola. See that? So that is because the prompt was not right. And this is wantedly, I wanted to show this example to tell you it all again depends on the prompts. So if you have a good understanding of how X-ray searches work, then that can come handy in terms of weeding out these data points, right? So that's the reason why you were getting Meta and other irrelevant. There are a bunch of irrelevant candidates out there. Microsoft, right? Because probably there were some word on their profile, Ola, and that's the reason you would have got these results. If you would have used in title, potentially would have gotten better results and focused results, right? But let me show you TA Buddy, right? So a lot of new features which will be adding to TA Buddy, and the entire uh, concept here is to automate a lot of sourcing, right? So now in X-ray, what we have done is we have actually defined all the X-ray models here. We have defined, okay, if you have to search in headline, what will happen? If you put experience, what will happen? And based on the Google search engine, what we do is, let's say, for example, we have also fed for software developer, what are the most common designation? If I go for junior to mid, what are the most common? So we have fed all of these information, right? And then you want to pick an experience range, let's say 1 to 3 years. And then you can use companies if you want to use a location. I'll just use some random location. Let's say I'll use Delhi. And then I'll say submit. Right. Now you see the multiple searches. Now what we have done is we've done a bunch of things here. We know how X-ray works. In X-ray, you should not try to get all the data in one search. So what we have done, we have broken down the search into multiple sub searches, smaller segment of searches. So like this, things can be automated to a very large extent. Now, whatever you just saw with the help of Web Pilot and ChatGPT, we were able to automate sourcing. We will be launching that in a couple of weeks as well, wherein the bot itself will do sourcing and bring it to you. And that is fairly simple. The reason why it is simple is because it is going to go ping the PSE, programmable search engine, go get the data. What is the crucial part here? The arrangement of keywords, how it needs to happen. That recruiting piece of intelligence, we will feed it to the bot. How it needs to search for one role, how the placement of the keywords will be, all that will teach that to the bot. Then what will happen? The bot will know how to go about. Now, for example, now when you're searching for a role, let's say any general role which has thousands of data, in X-ray, you cannot see more than 300. If you're doing a normal search, if you're using a PSC, you cannot see more than 100. So there are methods and techniques to break down that data, right? So all those things will embed it to the search engine, and the search engine will do all that on your behalf and bring that data out. So this kind of automation is very much possible, right? And it's all about having the right context to it. Like for example, in LinkedIn, we are adding one more feature which is for companies, wherein you can filter down the target company based on the size of the company, based on the location of the company, which within a particular city, which area you're looking for, right? Based on the industry. So you can filter it out and then you can create that company cluster for yourself. These are my target companies, 20 target companies, and save it. And that will remain as a search for you. You can come and reuse it and leverage it. So these kind of features, once comes up into the technology, then that actually brings down your sourcing time, right? And as recruiters, you can focus more on engagement. So this is what is happening with these technological advancements. And what we are trying to do with tools like TA Buddy is give the recruiting context, because all of these technology tools are general tools. They are not specifically trained on recruitment as a subject, right? So that's what we are trying to do, bring in the recruiting side of it to these tools so that it could eventually be the buddy to all the TA, right? That's how the name evolved, TA Buddy, right? So yep, so that's the heads up which I would want to close it here, saying key in the next 1 year or 2 years, you will see a lot of adoption of tools. One is sourcing will get automated to a very large extent. To a very large extent, it will get automated. It will be an engagement game for all the recruiters trying to improve how you would go about engaging it, right?